Meanwhile, in Nebraska.
Oh, I look forward to taking you apart, Madeline, and discovering how you've changed.
That's right, I forgot. The broodmare's fulfilled her purpose. You have your prize, my baby. You don't need me anymore.
Only assets have value. Oh, God!
I don't belong to you, Sinister. I won't be ruled by you. I won't be condemned by you.
Oh!
Surprise. It appears your devices have limits, and I don't.
Impossible.
If you say so. What price glory now, Mr. Sinister?
No!
Your ambition is a world to rule. In one stroke, I make it ashes. I abjure life, Father, and give myself over whole and unreservedly to the fire and inferno that will consume you all. Oh, I hate you.
Madeline, I need to speak to Madeline at once. Decide to throw in a Death Becomes Her quote at the end.
Okay.
Hey everybody, that was issue 241 of the Uncanny X-Men way back in, 88? 87?
1988.
88. Good Lord, hi. This is episode 129 of Comic Book Queers, CBQ Legacy. I'm EvilJeff, and I'm here with my ever-loving co-host, Brett.
Hi, EvilJeff. Is it hot in here, or is it me? It's so hot.
Oh, it is getting hot. I mean,
Oh.
It is actually 90 degrees in LA right now. It's an unbearable inferno, could you say?
An inferno that will consume us all?
Oh.
Well, hi everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to episode 129 of Comic Book Queers Legacy. This is part 3 in our Gay Icon series that is happening while there are no new comic books. We've done Emma Frost, we've done an episode about North Star, and today we're talking about another gay icon in the world of X-Men. That's right.
The underboob outfit.
The underboob. The underboob crossover, aka Inferno.
Inferno. This ignited every little gay boy's fantasy of a redhead woman turning evil and making deals with the devil. Yes, please.
Yes, please. A bunch of teenagers frolicking through hell to save one of their own. Yes, please.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different plot threads that have been building up all the way from the Mutant Massacre. Because that's what the Mutant Massacre was, the first appearance by the Marauders, and their evil leader was Mr. Sinister, who really didn't show up until kind of around now, and finally making his face known. And not only since the Mutant Massacre, since issue, 160-something of when Madeline Pryor first showed up, we finally figure out who the fuck is she.
Why do you look so much like Jean Grey?
Yeah, I feel like everyone was just super okay with that.
Everyone was super okay. Sometimes it's like, wow, you kind of bear an odd resemblance to her. And other times it's like, oh my God, you're a clone of her.
Yeah. And then
Quite
also
literally.
and then you happen to, your plane crashes on the same day Jean Grey died. There was just a lot of
stuff with Madeline. And there's a lot of stuff in Inferno. Inferno is long and dense.
It is. Because we have the New Mutants and Sim. We have the Exterminators and Nastrith, and then we have the X-Men and Sinister. And all of it kind of crosses back and forth, and the bad guys show up everywhere.
Oh, yeah, they're here and they're there. It's a true crossover. It's a crossover that happened.
But not
only in those 3 books, but Marvel-wide.
Marvel-wide. They all had little one-shots that, we decided we didn't really want to read.
Daredevil, Spider-Man, Power Pack, the Avengers, which had a very odd lineup at the time. They all had Inferno issues.
Where they were just battling like Manhattan going crazy.
Manhattan went crazy, which is so crazy. Just the demonic anthropomorphizing. A lot of murder.
Like in one of the
that's
New
kind of a
Mutants,
note
like
I made.
Emma Frost is like, don't go in.
She's in it.
She's like, don't go in the elevator, and all these people run in the elevator, and when the elevator opens in the bottom, it's just bones and blood falls out. I was like, that's dark.
That is dark. There's a lot of weird elevator stuff just because this is a story where Manhattan becomes demonically enchanted and all the objects, all the buildings, including clothing on racks, becomes demonic and starts attacking people. And I think as a kid, I was like, because I read this as a kid. Mm-hmm. As a kid, I was like, oh, cool. It's so scary. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Everything's demons.
Oh, God,
now I'm like, oh, my God, the carnage.
The mailbox ate people and turned them into letters.
I mean, there are bloody people, body parts in the streets for blocks in Manhattan.
Did you read the lead up to Inferno? The couple Uncanny before that?
Yeah, I did.
That's one where Madeline, they go on that date. She goes on that date with Havoc. And that's where like those people like, oh,
the gateway visions.
Oh, they're like, oh, we're here to like examine the weird things going on. And then they all get eaten in the elevator too.
Oh, no, they don't. Well, okay. So do you recognize who those are?
Are they from are they the Jubilee people?
Yes.
So they don't die.
They don't die. That happened after Inferno.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was 244. Yeah. So that's weird. But it seemed like they
don't die. They become mutant hunters.
Well.
So they survived. They survived their demonic elevator in that one scene. But yeah, I even read an issue leading up to Inferno that really I loved, especially because of Mark Silvestri's art, was I forget, it's Uncanny X-Men, I want to say 240, maybe right before that, but it's Madeline. It's like when she has the dream that transforms her into the Goblin Queen.
Being taken off.
Yes, where like the featureless mannequin walks up to them, and Cyclops like pulls Madeline's features off of her face and puts it on the mannequin to make Jean. God, that was so freaky. That was so surreal. So many beats of Inferno. I mean, this was peak comic book. I was 12 years old.
But also peak comic book.
This will always be the best.
But if you think about this is like almost, like 6-7 years of she had been around, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that it had been maybe a couple of years since she was in Australia, and I would just say it was just such a slow build. He just peppered her true intentions slowly and slowly and slowly. And he just peppered them in to where you really believed, like, oh, she's fucking turning fucking evil. What is happening? And no one's noticing. Because if you think about it, too, she is one of the most royally screwed over characters. Like, Chris Claremont was very upset by bringing Jean Grey back and fucking over Madeline Pryor.
I mean, she continues to be screwed over. Madeline Pryor continues to be screwed over through this whole thing, not just leading up to this whole thing, because a lot of this is like a woman scorned story. But even after, she's still like her origin as a clone to Jean, finding that out. What humiliation. Like, yes, you truly are second banana to this woman.
Yeah, literally.
To Jean Grey. You literally are. So a lot of things came flooding back to me rereading Inferno. Just all of these moments.
Yes. There is one thing that is the thing that's so disturbing for me, and I want to know what you think about this, is that she turns evil to get revenge. But her ultimate revenge is very Medea, where she's like, the best way to hurt you, Cyclops, is by murdering our son.
Sure.
Which is so fucked up.
And speaking of their son, one thing that's crazy about this is as they're battling, as the X-Men and X-Factor, they are reunited after so long since Jean's death. They're battling Madeline Pryor. That they keep calling Madeline's baby is Cable, that they keep calling the baby Christopher. By they, I mean Cyclops and Jean. And Madeline's like, his name is Nathan. I know you don't want to call him that because Nathan was the name of the bully at your orphanage, Scott. And I'm like, wow, I totally forgot his name was Christopher. Like, because he's Nathan. So how did that happen?
Why did they both call him different names? Do we remember how that came about?
I don't know. I mean, his name is Nathan Christopher Charles Summers.
But that is weird that they call him Christopher.
I mean, like, they named him as, like, two people who couldn't decide on what a kid's name is going to be. Like, that's one name too many.
And that's the other weird thing is that this is the whole time, this is Cable. Now, granted.
And the whole time it's Cable.
But, I mean, that is one thing that was not thought of.
You didn't know that then.
Because that was created. I will actually say, after reading the New Mutants, I was like, this is issue like 74. I was like, when does Cable show up? And I realized there's like a 12-issue arc of Mirage and Danny Moonstar in Asgard, with them all in Asgard. Mm-hmm. And then Cable shows up when they get back. And I was like trying to look through it. I was like, oh, this looks boring and awful.
Oof.
And then Cable and Rob Liefeld shows up, and then
changed the world.
Well, he systematically got rid of, other than Cannonball and Boom Boom, he got rid of every single mutant. Like he kept Richter. No, Richter stayed too, I think, right?
Richter, Boom Boom,
Cannonball.
Then it was Sunspot.
No, Sunspot left in issue 99.
Ah, fuck.
He comes back later in X-Force. But remember, even Rain leaves to go to X-Factor. So then X-Force is just Domino, Shatterstar, Richter, Boom Boom, Sunspot, and Thunderbird.
Yeah, Warpath.
Or Warpath. Yeah. So it's just so crazy thinking that all of this, because then this Inferno, right after Inferno, it's like slowly maybe about 2 years away before X-Men #1, the biggest selling comic of all time. Mm-hmm. So this is all kind of leading up to the end of Chris Claremont. Yeah.
Yeah, before his return.
Well, we don't count that. Anyway, Inferno. Let's start where did this all start? I believe it started with New Mutants because it's all about Limbo. So should we go to New Mutants?
Yeah, one thing I want to say first is I was reminded of the house ads for Inferno that I loved so much as a kid in the back of comic books prior to the event, where there's 3 different ads and each ad was one panel and it was like 3 characters like standing front, left, right. You know what I'm talking about? And like one was of Mr. Sinister, Sim, and Nastor.
And like one was of Nastrith.
No, there's no T at the end.
There isn't? Okay, Nastor.
No. Nastor. And then one is like Magic, Ileana, Darkchild, and then another one is Jean, Madeline, Scott. Like, oh my god, do you remember those?
I don't.
Yeah, like one it said Sim, Mr. Sinister, Nastor. Sometimes good planning takes a lifetime. And then another one was Ileana, Magic, Darkchild. No one promised a happy ending. And then it was Jean Grey, Scott Summers, Madeline Pryor. You only think you know the whole story. Those 3 ads. Oh, I loved them.
Oh, I found them. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I remember these. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. I loved everything about this era of X-Men. Like, there was this book. It was some sort of like previews. Maybe it was in Wizard or it was in previews, but it was kind of like a few pages from the post Fall of the Mutants world. Mm-hmm. And it was like I forget what it was in, but you saw like you checked in with each team for like 1 or 2 pages, and it was like the setup to Excalibur was 1 page. It was everyone reacting to the X-Men's death. The set like Excalibur setup was 1 page, like where the New Mutants were, like they were kicking around a soccer ball and like outside the mansion. Anyway, I have all these flashes of these things that were happening at the time, and it really was just the best time in comics. It was when I was so in love with comics, this era. So
well, this is honestly for me, it's when this literally was right. I'm trying to think of what Inferno. I was on vacation and I was bored and I bought some X-Men comics. And I knew a little bit about X-Men comics because my best friend read them. And that was when they were also selling classic X-Men. And at that point, it was doing the Dark Phoenix saga. So I got the classic X-Men Dark Phoenix saga. And then I got a new one. And it was the one where Wolverine was being crucified.
Yep.
So that was right when I picked up. And I was so invested in it. I immediately went to a comic book store, took all of my allowance, and just bought back issues. And then went to my friend's house. And I would say within like a month, I had read from issue 200 all the way up to the present, and then started collecting Excalibur and reading it. I gobbled it up really, 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 really fast.
Yeah.
And for me, the Inferno saga was like the pinnacle. It was because it was all of them together. I still think Mark Silvestri, however you say his name, the way he draws the X-Men, the bodies, the facial expressions are just so powerful and amazing. I fucking love this crossover, except for the New Mutants. The New Mutant one's kind of boring.
Yeah, so that's my big takeaway upon the revisitation.
Which is
and I
weird
have not
because
read this
it's like
in so
that's
long.
what it's all based off of is
Yeah,
Illyana.
but it was the New Mutants pieces are really drawn out.
It's almost like I feel like it could have happened in one issue.
Yeah.
Especially because then it's very much like in connection with the Exterminators.
Formerly which was basically the X Factor kids, the kids that X Factor had been rescuing in their book.
So is Skids, Rusty, what's his name? Rusty
Skids,
Trombone.
Rusty Trombone, Skid Marks, Richter,
and
Boom Boom,
Artie and
Leech.
And then added to the Exterminators is WizKid. What's his name?
Right.
Takashi?
Yep.
Which I was like, he's a mutant. I guess maybe he is back on Krakoa. Do you know what else he's been in?
No, I don't know whatever happened to WizKid.
Let's see if you can guess. He's been in something else.
A Weapon X limited series?
No. Avengers Academy.
Really?
He was one of the students at Avengers Academy. And that's the only other time he's been used. Isn't that crazy?
Well, I have to say, rereading this as a man, his powers are ludicrous.
They make no sense.
Ludicrous.
Like, his powers are like, I can turn anything into a gun.
I can turn any machine into any machine, but it's just so... Oof. It's real... I don't know. You got to suspend a lot of disbelief for that particular power. I feel fire coming out of the hands. I get it, but being able to just like morph one machine and so that you could just touch a microwave and like morph it into a supercomputer. Like what are we doing?
Yeah. I also didn't really understand why Naster needed his computer. They were like, and then they kept saying things like, he was able to make a computer with spell check. Like that was supposed to be impressive.
It was kind of it was like a running bit, like spell check. Like they're dumb. That was my takeaway.
Oh my
Demons
God.
are dumb.
Anyway, but this is where you first really see like the whole entire. I forgot that like Boom Boom had a crush on Richter, and Boom Boom is such a fucking cunt. And Skids and Rusty, what's his name? Rusty what?
Trombone.
No, shut up.
Collins.
Rusty Collins. They are such goody two-shoes. I'm so glad that they were written out.
I forgot how connected I had felt to the X Factor kids. I forgot that Richter and Boom Boom, who have been through so much since these days.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot that this was their origin.
Yeah, remember like Richter was Latino, Mohawk, and leather vest with no shirt on.
Hello.
And Boom Boom with her like triangle glasses.
Yeah.
And always
they're great.
Chewing gum, which I guess she still does. But that's the thing is Exterminators was just kind of like, it connects into the X-Men because like Naster stole these babies to kind of keep Illyana's portal into Limbo open. And that connects into the New Mutants, and then the New Mutants are fighting. And I read a couple of issues before just to see what was going on, and I remembered how much I hated that Gossamer character.
Me too. I had the same thought. Gossamer, she was part of this team then.
Ugh.
Boo.
Boring.
Yeah, Sunspot was boring when she was around. I also, something else that came to me is how much I loved Artie and Leech.
They're great.
Used to love Artie and Leech. I thought they were the cutest things ever. This era, they're kind of grown up now, and like I feel sad, like a parent who sees their awkward tween and like, ugh, my kid used to be so cute. I wish my kid was 3 again. That's how I feel about Artie and Leech.
One of the interesting things in Exterminators that I found was we've been complaining a lot about Danny Moonstar, Mirage, not using her powers. And in this, her powers are used in a way that I don't think are right. I don't know if you remember this part, but Rusty gets a head injury.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh my God, he's bleeding out. We need a bandage. And Mirage goes, well, I can manifest your greatest wish. And Skids, because you just wished a bandage, I now have one, and I'm putting it on.
Yeah.
You.
Oh, I totally remember when her powers did that.
But I thought it was Mirage's. It wasn't real.
No, it was real. There was a period, we talked about this recently. There was a period where she was fighting, I forget who they were fighting, and they threw her against this computer. It was like this power weirding computer machine. And she got thrown against it. It was like, oh, I got like all shocked. And then after that, she was able to make
it real? What?
Them real. Yes.
That was in the New Mutants?
Yes.
Oh my God. So when did that stop?
Didn't that happen during Fall of the Mutants when they were fighting like the Animus or whatever his name was and his Animend or whatever on that island, the guy that shot Doug?
But I feel like but then that's the interesting thing. It was like, if that was part of your powers, why is that not part of your powers now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it faded.
Like something happened. Ugh. Yeah, there's a whole like storyline about when her powers were able to do that.
Someone needs to fucking get this together, get her powers set together.
Oh my God. You don't know when she can do solid fears and wishes powers?
I don't remember that at all. I blanked it out. I will say, but that was post... I will say, like, I didn't really read, like, it was, like, the post-Sankovic pre-Inferno.
Yeah.
I didn't read... I wasn't really into the New Mutants then. I didn't read all of that. With Doug Ramsey dying and all that shit.
Yeah, I did. I did read it.
Anyway, New Mutants, like, Illyana is battling Sim for Limbo.
Yeah, to rule...
and it's kind of boring.
It is boring. Like, I don't know. Not a big fan of techno-organic virus, first of all. So Sim is like, I have the TO virus and I can do anything. I'm like, and that's precisely why we hate the TO virus.
Yeah.
So there's that. And it's just this long, drawn-out battle. I mean, great. It's the culmination of Illyana's, Limbo stuff.
And the strange thing is that she embraces her Dark Child personality. And the way... I didn't realize what they did is they did a stepping disc into the past.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the logistics of this. And Rain kind of pulled her from the past. And so when she sacrificed herself, the girl from the past was still alive.
Yeah.
And was it Lobdell who decided then to just kill her off with the legacy virus?
With the legacy virus.
Who decided that?
It's probably Lobdell. I don't know.
What a fucking fuck you to that character.
I know. After all that, she just gets the legacy virus.
And then dies. And then it was Yost. Yost and what's the guy who wrote with Yost? Christopher Yost?
Craig Kyle.
Kyle and Yost, they brought her back. And do you remember how they were able to bring her back?
Through Limbo. Like when the new X-Men kids went into Limbo, right?
Well, they were saying that Illyana sacrificed herself, but the Dark Child part of herself was still split off. So technically, it was only the Dark Child portion without a soul. And that's why, if you remember when the New Mutants came back in like 2009, Illyana was like kind of straight up evil because she didn't have a soul.
Yeah.
And they kind of like washed that away and kind of made her back to kind of, I mean, she's still very gruff and aggressive, but I remember the very beginning Illyana was like full on no soul, scary, creepy. But yeah, this is the death of Illyana. It was a very big change up of the book. This was a change up of all the books, really, because after this, the X-Men become disbanded and then X Factor falls apart. It's kind of, they were just like, after this, I wonder what like prompted.
This was a bow.
I wonder what prompted, like, do you think, because this was before Jim Lee fully came on and started taking over, like, I wonder, like, what made Chris Claremont decide, hey, let's just fuck it all up. I want to, like, let's start completely fresh. And Inferno was kind of a cleanser.
This was putting a closure on a number of story arcs happening in these books.
But Louise Simonson just isn't very good at I guess it was just a little clunky for the New Mutants one and the Exterminators. But then we get into the X-Men X Factor crossovers, and that is just some of the best comic
It's
books.
pulse pounding.
It's pulse pounding, some of the best storytelling ever. The action scenes, the drama, the betrayals. I mean, also everyone thinks the X-Men are dead and the X Factor finally reunites with them. There is so much going on. The X-Men are consumed by the evilness of Inferno and kind of start turning evil. And there's like the evil costume versions of them. The evil costume versions of the X-Men are some of my favorite.
Oh, they were so great. They were so great because they were drawn so weirdly when Walt Simonson drew them in the X Factor issues. Yeah. That weird, I kind of liked, first of all, there is, for me, a sense of, oh, thank God, when you go from Walter Simonson's X Factor issues to Mark Silvestri's X-Men issues. Like, when it's back into Silvestri style, you're like, oh, thank God.
I know.
That said, it kind of reminds me of Morrison's run when you got back to Frank Quietly after the other guy. And you're like, oh, thank Jesus. But that said, there's something about Walter Simons's evil Inferno X-Men costume designs that I kind of love.
I love that, like, Psylocke, her, just, like, it's her hood, like, you don't see her face anymore. It's just black. And her hood is all, and her cape is all tattered. Like, Rogue's hair is, like, extra pointy.
Rogue's hair is wild.
Wolverine's, like, his things are super long and tattered.
Yeah.
I kind of love it. Colossus is like, I'm over this, and he goes off to help Illyana.
Because he's not affected by the enchantment of turning everything evil. But let me ask you, so Longshot is, he is affected because he gets attacked by Nastor, and Nastor does that, like, strip the demon. Yeah. But then Dazzler gets affected too, and I ask you, is it because she fucked Longstar after he got affected?
Longshot?
I mean, Longshot, sorry.
I think so. I think it's like
right?
DD. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Demon STI. I love it.
Yeah. Also, a Longshot is also just very susceptible, I think. In the same way, did you read Excalibur?
Because he's innocent. No, I didn't get to it, but we can still talk about it because, I mean, I have read it.
Because that's the interesting thing is they set up Rachel goes to save Nathan because she hears his cry and she just tears out of the place. So Kitty, Nightcrawler, Megan, and Brian, they are flying across the Atlantic to like get to her. And at one point, Kitty has to poop. and which is an hilarious line in which Brian is like, can't you just like phase? And she's like, gross, no. So they land on a ship, and in the ship, all of these guys want to fuck Megan, but instead, when they see her, she's like, ooh, they like me. And her boobs start getting bigger, and she becomes prettier and prettier. And then,
I remember that.
And then Brian is he's so clueless that Nightcrawler is the only one defending her. And then Nightcrawler's like, fuck you, Brian, you fucking treat her like garbage. And she was wearing some skimpy negligee, and he's like, look at her, this isn't her, and she's doing it for him, and he doesn't even notice. Like, he wants to fuck Megan so bad.
Yes.
But Megan is just like, you don't understand, because of I'm such an empath, I literally just suck in the emotions around me and take it in. And then they arrive at Inferno, and he's like, oh my God, it's evil. And she's immediately like, bah. And she's like, full of, like literally in 1 second, she's
Talk
like,
about susceptible.
Evil, and she just throws Nightcrawler like to his death and flies up to Nastor, and he bites her and turns her into the Goblin Princess.
Yes.
Rachel.
But when does Brian show up in the leather spiked gear?
Well, that's the thing, is then Rachel gets sucked in by him and becomes a mannequin. So Nightcrawler's trying to save Rachel.
Yes. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
And meanwhile, the Goblin Princess attacks Brian, and when Kitty goes to save her, it's in a movie theater, and because they've all come to life, they're just in different horror movie action movies. So
I remember there being a Freddy
he's
moment.
Like Freddy Krueger, he's like the Terminator.
Yes.
And so she's like trying to battle him, and in the way she ends up doing it is that she's like, wait, I still have a piece of the Soul Sword, or the Excalibur sword, or whatever. And so she pulls out the sword and fucking slashes Brian and then stabs Megan. And then they're back to normal.
She slashes Brian when he's in the harness.
Yeah.
That Megan puts him in.
Alan Davis is into some freaky shit, I bet.
Alan Davis's Brian Braddock definitely made me feel funny as a kid.
Oh, even I wanted the Nightcrawler version of him too.
Oh, yes. So is Excalibur Inferno in some ways the best part of it? The best book, do you think?
I mean, no. X-Men 242 Giant Size.
Oh my God.
Is the best. Where they kill Nastor. That's the best one. Because all of the X Factor, because in this Giant Size, they are all fighting each other. And then it finally takes them to realize, wait, we have to... It's when they finally realize that Madeline is evil.
Yeah, and they have to fight.
And they kill Nastor, but then at the end of that, Havoc gets his tattered rags and decides to take...
Goblin Prince.
Becomes the Goblin Prince. And then in the next issue, she's basically like, all right, I'm making a sacrificial altar. We're going to kill my son. And Havoc is like, do we really have to do this, Madeline? And I'm like, at what point, when she says I'm going to kill the son, like, you should have wised up. I feel Havoc. I think Havoc, I would have been way more pissed off at Havoc.
Yeah, Havoc's an idiot.
I was like, what? She's like...
He's very closed off from himself.
Yeah, he's like, oh, but, we were dating and I was in love. Well, she said she was going to kill her son, so I think you should have included, and she was a little off her rocker. Anyway.
So, did you... well, let's keep going into this moment. So, the moment where there's an X Factor issue that ends with Wolverine's hand touching Jean's shoulder.
Right.
And it's like, next issue at Uncanny X-Men. And then you open Uncanny X-Men, and it's the Mark Silvestri beautiful splash page
of
with
him
Wolverine,
just kissing
like,
her.
mouth-raping Jean. But also, it's just everyone's scattered, and you're like, oh my God, they're together. I remember how big that moment was. That was
I have goosebumps
huge.
right now thinking about it. Seeing them all together, drawn by Mark Silvestri in just this gorgeous way. So good. And Madeline
they had
Pryor
been apart
switched
for
back,
a while.
And so she's like tricking the X-Men thinking that she's not evil.
Mm-hmm. But there was the moment in the Mutant Massacre where Wolverine smelled Jean in the Morlock tunnels, and he didn't tell anyone. So Wolverine's been hanging on to this knowledge for issues and issues and issues and issues now.
The other thing that I realized is when they battle the Marauders, all the Marauders are back to life.
Yeah. And that was the first time that ever happened, I believe.
I know, but it's the first time I also realized being like, oh, Sinister cloned all of them. He's a cloner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I never thought of that before that. I was always like, how did he come back to life? And it wasn't literally until this read that I was like, oh, duh.
Oh, he cloned them.
Yeah, he's a cloner. You cloner.
I think what I realized this read is how crazy it is that this circles back to the death of Phoenix. Yeah. I don't think I've ever really realized back then, because I didn't read Phoenix as like part of my X-Men reading. It was before my time, thank God. So I knew of the Phoenix event, but like I just don't think I did the math or realized the drama of this.
Oh, because of the classic X-Men was doing the Dark Phoenix. I bought the Dark Phoenix saga and still have that book from the 80s. I still have the same one. So I read it before all the Inferno happened. So I was fully invested.
It's crazy, though. It's crazy that it circles back to Phoenix and then circles back to Scott's orphanage. Like, it really closes a lot of storylines.
But then you think right after Inferno and X Factor, Nanny and the Orphan Maker show up.
Nanny and the Orphan Maker, they show up right in the prelude issues too.
X-Men right now, so it's just kind of crazy how I feel like 95 to 2000 I consider like the dead years.
Yeah.
Like really nothing.
Yeah, the Scott Lobdell years. Yeah. And was that Claremont? That was Claremont coming back and Scott Lobdell. Like those two things combined, right?
I think Claremont came back when Morrison came back.
No, that's not true. He came back before.
Oh, wait, he came back again, though, when Morrison came back. Because
what?
He did, he was writing for a bit, he was writing the Storm one.
Huh?
Wasn't he writing Extreme X-Men?
Oh, Extreme X-Men. Oh, my God. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
No, but the Rachel Dinosaur one was before Morrison. No, or was that after?
I think that was after.
Yeah, that was after, too. I don't think Claremont came back until the Extreme X-Men one.
Didn't he do, like, Revolution and all that? Like, the hunt for... the Neo...
Diaries?
The Neo...
See, I didn't read all of that. I tried to catch back
up. Yeah, but when was that? When was that, though?
I don't remember.
That was before Morrison.
All right. Anyway, whatever. Inferno. What are your takeaways from Inferno?
I have a few. That number one, this was like so peak X-Men for me. Like the scene of Madeline Pryor sketching the star and thinking like, "Ooh, that could be the X-Men's logo." Longshot and Dazzler already wear it on their costumes. Maybe there's something. Do you know how many times I sketched that star after I read that page in notebooks and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not even funny. I forgot how much I loved the X Factor kids. There's a brief moment where Freedom Force shows up in one of the Prelude books.
Mm-hmm.
I never realized how hilarious that is that like Mystique and the Blob work for the government and like are like good guys or like quote unquote government. They're not.
Yeah.
Anyway, Freedom Force is hilarious. I remember that. I remember thinking that John Bogdanow's Demons, so he's the guy who drew X-Terminators, and he was also the guy that was writing and drawing Power Pack. His demons are so scary and so weird.
What, you read Power Pack?
No, I didn't get to that either, but I did read it. I skimmed it a little, but I remember it very well from my original reads.
What happens in Power Pack? Who was in it?
So there's a guy who's transformed into a demon and he goes after Power Pack, and it's him trying to kill the kids, and he kidnaps their parents, and that's how Power Pack's parents find out that Power Pack has powers and that they've been superheroing. And It's really dramatic. Like the guy, like Katie, the little one, is crying a lot, and like the guy's really gonna like fuck up the parents, and I think he hurts one of them, and like he kills a bunch of people in front of the kids. It's real fucked up, and it ends with them killing him, and they go home with the parents, and it's still hot, and they're in their like small New York apartment, and the parents are in the kitchen, and the kids are like, all right, well, there's, demons and shit out there. We got to go. And the parents have like big smiles on their faces when they're like, okay, kids, bye. And the kids fly out the window, and the parents like then fall apart. They just start like screaming and crying at the kitchen table. And it is such an insane panel of the parents like having nervous breakdowns after the kids leave to go superheroing. Oh my God. But it's a really intense, dramatic.
Is that a Louise Simonson as well?
No, I think it is John Bogdanove.
Oh, okay.
I think he might have written that one too. I can look that up.
Inferno.
So other takeaways. There's an issue where Dazzler walks into a bar and sings, which iconic. Also, it says that she goes into a rendition of Proud Mary that would put Tina
Turner to shame. I remember that.
I'm like,
racism.
First, there's no, it's racist.
Can you imagine her being like, got a big job in the city. Yeah. Ooh, big wheel, keep on.
There is no way it puts Tina Turner to shame. I don't care who she is. It's super weird that Nanny and the Orphan Maker have Jean's niece and nephew, and then later Jean's parents get turned into demons. Like, this whole thing is not kind to Jean Grey's family.
Oh, I love that one line from Madeline. She's like, what's wrong? It's just your parents. All you have to do is kill them, because if you don't, they'll surely kill you. Oh, Madeline.
She's so mad, Madeline. Her underboob. One thing that's crazy is in New Mutants. So a few things. One, Rain Sinclair cannot handle limbo. Like, it is too much for this girl.
Yeah.
She's falling apart.
Yeah.
She's like, I cannot be here.
Yeah. I didn't know.
I didn't know there were so many demons. But part of the reason why is because she witnesses this insane abuse of Ileana Rasputin, age 6, 7, at the hands of Sim, the demon.
Beat up and raped and like dragged off by her hair. What? And Ilana's like, well, just, it's the past. You can't mess with it. Just like, I need to learn from that.
Meanwhile, Rain is like, what the fuck? Like, he starts like hitting this little girl. It's not cool. It's very fucked up.
Yeah, it's super fucked up.
The other thing is, in New Mutants, when we cut to the Hellfire Club, it's so weird to see Emma Frost.
Right?
It's so weird to see that Emma Frost.
Emma Frost, but she's kind of like the good guy on Magneto's side in it.
Right? She has like her only panel is a sympathetic, heroic kind of moment. But
then this is the weird thing, and I forgot this too, is where Magneto is like, no, or does this happen before or after Inferno when because I read a bunch of them where he's like, no, I was just trying to prepare you for war because I was just putting up with Xavier, but in the end I know we're going to go to war with the humans, and the New Mutants were like, fuck you. Did that happen during Inferno or after?
I feel like it happened before. No,
before.
Isn't that when they get those costumes that they're wearing in Inferno?
Yeah.
They're we don't need him.
Yeah. So that's where I found that interesting. But it was weird that the whole dynamic, it was Magneto and Emma Frost versus Shaw and Selene.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if Emma had any kind of sympathetic moments prior to that. Like if she had any dialogue that was like, we can't do this, you guys.
No, I think her first sympathetic thing came when the Hellions died.
Yeah.
Which isn't that long after.
Yeah.
Crazy. I also just feel there's just something about female villainy, of Madeline Pryor, of I just like a woman scorned and deciding to just burn it all to the fucking ground.
Talk to me, yes.
And there's just something, it's very, she reminds me of Maleficent.
Yeah,
You
or
know,
like,
where it's like, you didn't invite me to this baby christening, well, I'm gonna fucking murder her. This is
Right.
like, you left me, well, I'm gonna fucking destroy New York City.
Love it.
Kill my baby.
love it. More, I want more female villains like this.
Yes, I
Like,
love
just
the
fuck
overreaction.
you villains. Yeah. Burn it
Yeah.
down. We love Madeline Pryor. We're
Set
so
your
happy she came
problems
back.
on fire.
We're so happy Madeline came back, and then comics stopped. Right
know.
when Madeline came back.
Right when she came back.
And she's still like, fuck you all, by the way. I would love it if during Hellions, Madeline's like, where's Scott Summers? I want to tear his dick off. And they're like, that's still your thing? She's like, oh, yes. Oh, baby. This will always be my thing.
tear his dick off. Is that that's?
I don't
was
know.
that a
She's
real
just
thing?
no.
I
She's
was
just
wondering if
mad.
I was wondering if she actually referenced tearing his penis off anywhere.
I mean,
But
if
also,
anyone can do it,
has Cable and Madeline Pryor ever? Because he always like calls Jean Grey mom, and it's like Madeline Pryor is the one that pushed you out of her pussy. Like, I
Yeah.
had some kind of interaction with that.
right? Even though in this, Baby Cable's like psychically crying out to Jean, left and right. And Madeline's like, stop talking to her.
I love her. She's like, how dare you call out to that witch? I'm like, bitch, you're
That
trying
cow.
to kill him. I was like, I think you're trying to kill him, so you can't be mad that he's.
How dare you telepathically reach out to that cow?
I try to murder you.
Oh my God. Why do comic book women call each other cow so much?
It's so British. Because that's people in Britain still call each other cows. It's a very British thing. You say cow more than like bitch in Britain.
Do they say cow more than cunt?
Well, cunt is more like you call like more like a guy, a cunt more than a woman. Hey, shut up, you cunt.
Shut up, you cunt.
And cunt is like not a big deal in Britain. I know this because I watch a lot of British soap operas. Hollyoaks watch it. But they do, like they would say, oh, go do one, you old cow. Like they say that shit all the time. I love it.
Well, so does Madeline Pryor. And I love it. Also, the other thing she does is she really likes to throw that baby around, like swinging it by the ankle.
Or she's just holding it by the arm. I like where she literally just throws it in the air, like, take this baby.
Whee!
I'm gonna... And then the aliens, the goblins drop it. And then Jean Grey has to try and catch it.
And then Madeline's like, psych.
Psych, I got it.
Still got it.
She's like holding it by the leg. Oh my God. It's insane.
So Madeline is revealed to be a clone of Jean Grey. Now, Sinister is like, I got your DNA and I made a clone. Do you remember where they revealed Sinister got Jean's DNA after this?
Where? When? No.
Yeah. I remember reading this issue of this thing and I was like, here? You're doing this here? It was when, hold on. Yeah, it was when the Wildcats crossed over with the X-Men. The Wildcats from Wildstorm Comics. It was an X-Men Wildcats crossover, like X-Men crossover with like Grifter. Yeah, but it was a flashback.
Oh, so this is something that happened later and they decided to be like, oh, this is when it happened?
Yes.
Okay.
It happened later. It was a crossover with like Image Comics, essentially, Image Wildstorm, and they put it in there. But it took place prior to Inferno. But it came out later.
Wait, but when did he actually? But he had to take Jean Grey's DNA. When did he?
Yeah, like in a battle with like it's like the original five are like fighting the Wildcats in this crossover event. And like Sinister like is in it, and Jean Grey's like out cold, and he takes a sample of her.
Was he even in the comic, or did he just show up out of nowhere and take it?
He was part of the story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It was like Sinister teamed up with whoever the Wildcats villain is.
I do have one complaint.
What? One?
One thing. I have one complaint, and it is where Madeline Pryor reveals that her powers manifested when she influenced the battle between Storm and Cyclops.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't like that because I don't like the idea that Storm needed magical help to win the battle.
I know, and there's no response from Storm. She was like, bitch, I won that fair.
Yeah, I wish Storm was like, fuck you, cunt. I did it on my own.
I also like that Storm is the one that kills Naster, essentially, at the end.
And he's like, what makes you judge, jury, and executor? I am Storm, and I lead the X-Men, and that gives me every right.
That gives me the responsibility and the right.
I was like, who
are the X-Men?
This bitch. I love this bitch. I want this bitch back.
She basically tells Cyclops to shut up a few times in different ways throughout this. My favorite is when she's like, you're a bunch of mutant hunters, X-Factor. Because they were doing that stupid shit for a while. And he's like, no, it was just a cover. And Cameron Hodge, like, fucked with our PR. I mean, it's been on the news. We were cleared. And Storm's like, when we're off on adventures, we tape the news and we watch it. And we're a few weeks behind, but we've seen nothing that absolves you. And then later it comes out that, like, Madeline is the one who's been taping the news.
But that's what he's like, who's been taping? He's like, well, Madeline has. Wait a minute. Madeline?
I just love it's like,
I need to speak to Madeline at once.
That they tape the news when they're out on adventures so they don't miss it. Wound up being a plot point.
That's how it worked back then. On their VHS. Can you fix the tracking on this?
She goes, shut up, Cyclops. We tape the news. And we may be 2 weeks behind or something, but we've seen nothing that backs your story up. Love that Madeline keeps calling herself a broodmare. It's super weird.
Yeah.
And I love at the end, like one of the very last panels, they're like, oh, by the way, we have the babies. The babies from Exterminators that formed a giant pentagram in the sky.
These babies, there's like a pentagram and they're all screaming in pain. And I was like, are they all dead?
The babies are fine.
Like,
no, they're fine.
They're like, oh, the babies are okay. I'm like, are they? I don't think so.
I would.
Because that will fuck you up.
What about that story? Let's do that story. Whatever happened to those babies?
Well, it fucks you up. Here, I'm going to take a little bit of a tangent. Because I think just because you don't remember, if something that traumatic happens to you, that fucks you up permanently. Even if you're too young to like fully grasp it. And here is my example. Is my boyfriend has an insane, like Maury Povich style runaway, like fear of snakes.
Okay.
To the point where we watched an episode of Bob's Burgers and there was a snake in it, a cartoon Bob's Burgers snake. And he physically like jumped out of his seat and like had to like walk away and not watch the cartoon.
That's insane.
But I was like, what happened to you with snakes? And he's like, nothing that I remember. And I'm convinced that as a baby or a child, he was attacked by a snake. And I have my mom's best friend has a fear of birds. And her mother told her that when she was an infant, she left her in a stroller and like walked away in a park. And when she came back, a flock of pigeons found like food she was eating and were basically attacking her as a baby. And ever since then, even though she doesn't remember the incident, she cannot be around birds. She runs away if she sees a bird. And I think these babies are now scared of lightning. They are scared
of pentagrams.
Pentagrams. They were never able to watch the movie Gremlins.
Oh, that's so funny that you said that because Inferno reminds me a lot of Gremlins. Just the whole like city coming to life, like in the mailboxes, kind of like doing bits as they pull your eyes out. Very, very Gremlins.
Exterminators, though, my main problem was WizKid. He was so annoying.
He's like just a shitty guy. Shitty kid.
Yeah. And he's dyslexic. And he's like, I don't need to read. I can make a computer. Shoot, gun.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't need you, Artie and Leach. And it's like, they just got here. Like, they haven't even said hi to you yet.
Yeah.
Like, relax. We get the name Archangel. At the end, Beast is like, your name is Archangel.
When does he say that?
At the end.
At the end
of the X Factor, when they blow away Sinister.
Oh, I didn't realize that was the first time he called him that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they had been calling him either Angel or Death through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then he's like, you'll be Archangel.
Oh, my stars and garters. I also think it's so funny where we were talking about how he says broodmare. There's another one where it's like where they're doing the ice and the heat to kill Naster.
Yeah.
And then Longshot is like, oh, great. Why don't we all just like shoot ourselves in the face?
Yeah.
And then there's like a triple bubble of Rogue, Dazzler, and Beast all going, belt up, Longshot.
Yeah, how did they all know to say belt up at the same time? Because no one's ever said that before. And they all said that. I guess that's demon. That was Inferno magic.
Also, that drawing, the coloring is off, and it looks like it's a different Beast head. If you re-look at that image, Beast's head, the way it's drawn, is a little fucked up. It's
crazy that this was also the beginning of Blue Beast again. Like, this was when Beast officially turned blue, right before.
That's right.
This. It's his first blue mission since for a long time, since he was on the Avengers.
And this is also one of the few times where it references... I guess they were referencing it before in X Factor with his belt and stuff of just how powerful Iceman is.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally just like shot a huge glacier on top of the Empire State Building.
Yeah. He's wearing his belt through this whole thing, right?
I think so, yeah.
He's... This guy.
Faggot.
Yeah.
Inferno.
He just wanted to accessorize. There was nothing wrong with Bobby's powers. Inferno. It consumed us all.
Oh, it did. Is there any news on comics coming out?
No. Marvel just said, yep, none next week either, folks. But hang tight. One thing I saw on Twitter was Donny Cates, the Marvel writer, retweeted the Marvel tweet about there's not going to be any new comics. And he said, listen, it's not as bad as you think. There are things happening in the background. He's like, it's going to be a little while, but trust me, like it'll all work out. Comics are not dead. Plans are in motion. So, I mean, that gave me a little bit of hope.
Better. It's like I've been reading the X-Men, regularly for like 15 years. You know what I mean? Like, so this is weird, like not having it in my life.
And it's weird that it got pulled away from us right when it became the most unreal, incredible version of it ever.
Well, but can you imagine though if it was like House of X2 happened and then this what happened?
Oh my God. Yeah, but also, could you imagine if it was X-Men Gold and this happened?
I would have not given a shit.
Right.
Like, take as long as you want.
Oh boy.
God.
Well, there's always hope. And also hope is a myth.
Hope Summers is a myth.
The 5 is a myth.
What are we going to talk about next week? Are we going to continue on with gay
icons? We must continue on with gay icons.
What is another gay icon?
Oh my God.
I think I have
Aurora Monroe. Yeah?
I have one.
What?
We mentioned her. Dazzler.
I was hoping you were going to say Dazzler.
Should we read a few Dazzler, what was it, Beauty and the Beast?
Beauty and the Beast, Dazzler the movie, the graphic novel.
And
what about Astonishing or Extreme X-Men? What's the team with the bisexual
Hercules
Wolverine?
And Wolverine?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that called? We'll figure it up. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll read a couple of each of those.
Okay.
Let's talk about Dazzler. And maybe just for shits and giggles, maybe Dazzler versus Juggernaut.
Yes. 212?
212, 215, something around
Something
there.
like that. Let's do
All
it.
right. Dazzler. Gay icons continue.
Join us next week for Gay Icons. And remember, everyone, the reason you'll enjoy the Gay Icon series is because if you read comics, well, then that makes you queer. Bye.
Bye.
Smile.